Hi everybody, it's me Alfie. I'm back with a new video. I'm ranking all the Pixar movies. I hope you guys had a good Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, just a good celebration, even though we were a bit limited in what we could celebrate and family members we could have at home. Yeah, we should get into the ranking. Let's get into it. Pixar is my favorite studio ever. I've mentioned it in a couple of videos already. I really love Pixar. I'm a big animation nerd. They just make the greatest animated movies of all time. I mean, you get your Lion King and your How to Train Your Dragon and your Spirited Away, but Pixar is consistent. Maybe during this decade, they haven't made the best film during the 2010s. You know, they made Cars 2 and Brave, Good Dinosaur. They got about 10 movies, and they're not their best. I think their prime was really in the 2000s, you know, when they made the best films. So we're just gonna get into it. So coming in last place is gonna be Cars 2. Now, this is pretty well-known fact that Cars 2 is the weakest Pixar film. Personally, I kind of grew up watching this film. As a kid, I watched it quite a bit, you know? I grew up with the first two Cars films. I have a different connection, and I rank them a bit differently. I feel like Cars 2, you know, as a kid, it was entertaining. I always thought Mater was a bit annoying in that movie. He's not super annoying, but he's a bit clumsy. But other than the fact that it was kind of a missed opportunity, because they could have done something really good with the racing around the world, the Monaco Grand Prix and all that. I thought those sequences were probably the best part, the racing sequences with McQueen. But this is really the only Pixar film that feels like it's kind of a cash grab. And, you know, it's just putting all these, you know, cool stuff together, and it's not really doing it amazingly. And it just gives you this, and it's not the best. The animation is still pretty good, and it's still executed in a fairly solid manner, and it's not the worst thing ever. Just Cars 2, you know, everybody knows it. Personally, I don't think it's bad, I just think it's mediocre, maybe a little bit under mediocre. So, yeah. Next, at number 22, I have Brave. Now, prior to this year, I had never seen Brave entirely. I had seen parts of it. It didn't look amazing. I mean, it looked like it could be a competent story, but I just don't think it executes. I mean, this was kind of their epic and for Pixar, and it looked really good, I bet, back then. I didn't see it in theaters, and I've seen it only once. But, I don't know, the tone of the movie is a bit off. And a lot of people's criticism with this film is that it's a bit too much like Disney, and, you know, I don't really care about that. It's a competent movie. It's fine. It's just a fine movie. I think the animation is absolutely gorgeous and still one of their best, but overall just never really connected with me. But my sisters really like it. Now at number 21, I think this one is one of the more underrated, but also not. It's The Good Dinosaur. I've seen this movie about 3 or 4 times, and a lot of people's criticism with it is that it's not memorable. For me, I remember the movie pretty well. It's just, the movie is trying to be this big adventure, and I just don't think it works. It feels a bit cliche and kind of boring, you know. The characters and character designs are a little boring. You know, like the villains, they're super forgettable. It does have some really powerful moments, and Arlo is a pretty good character, you know. He's scared and he's understandable. He can be a little bit much at times, and he has a good relationship with Spot. It has some good moments, and the animation is absolutely gorgeous. It's just not quite there. It's trying to be kind of a Finding Nemo adventure, trying to be really big, but I don't think it quite gets there. It doesn't even get close to there. But it does have some solid emotional stuff, so this one is a bit higher than the others. At number 20, now this is one of the most underrated movies of Pixar in my opinion, and that is Cars 3. I actually really like this film. Honestly, when I rewatched the Cars movies, this one was my favorite. And now it's under the first Cars, but I really like this film. I mean, it's what the Cars franchise should have been. It's kind of this racing thing, and I think that's what this should have been in the first place. You know, it's not the most memorable movie, and it's more of a sequel. You know, it's not a movie of its own. It uses a lot of the previous films, not Cars 2. It uses a lot of Cars 1 to build its story, but I do think it has some really good animation, and overall I really have a fun time with this one. I think it's an entertaining movie. The ending was surprising. I mean, it's not amazing, but it's pretty fun. This is a fun and, you know, solid film. Pretty good, actually, yeah. Next, at number 19, I have Cars. Now, Cars is like one of the biggest Pixar films to my childhood, one of the most important, for sure. I watched it a lot as a kid, and I always really enjoyed it. Rewatching it nowadays, it's not quite as good, but I like the characters. I think Mater and McQueen, they're all pretty good. McQueen has a nice arc throughout the film. You know, it's something we've seen before, but they do it in a pretty good way. The message is not one I can relate to at all, and it feels a bit too specific maybe, but I still thought it was competent enough. And yeah, the animation is great, the soundtrack is great. I really like the third act. It really works for me. I know a lot of people really don't like this franchise. Personally, I have a deeper connection to it, but yeah, I really like Cars. I think it's a good movie. I don't think it's great, but it's a good movie. Next, at number 18 now. This movie I had not seen prior to this year. It's A Bug's Life. I've now seen the movie twice because I did 2 Pixar marathons this year because we were in quarantine. I did one back in April and I did one in September. A Bug's Life was pretty good. A lot of people don't really like this film. They say it really doesn't hold up. I really enjoyed it. I've rewatched it twice. I think it's one of the most rewatchable Pixar films in my opinion. It's a cool concept. I do think they could have done a bit more with it, but for what they did, it was pretty good. You know, the characters aren't the most memorable, but they're still fun. The story, that's where it kind of falls. It's a bit cliche, but I think the humor of the, you know, the bugs and some really clever humor put throughout. Really, like, I have a blast with this. This is one of the funniest Pixar films. The story may be a bit cliche, but the characters and the humor make this one a pleasant watch for me. And now number 17. This is where they really get great. And I can't believe this one is this low on the list. Monsters University. Monsters University is one of the more underrated Pixar films. I really like this film. The animation looks gorgeous. You know, you compare this to Monsters Inc. and you're like, wow, just wow, this really looks nice. Like the fur, the color, I think it looks nice. As a kid, I really watched this one a lot. I watched this more than Monsters Inc. I watched Monsters Inc. like once at my friend's house, but Monsters University we had the DVD and we traveled a lot, and so we had the DVD in the car and we just played it on repeat. And so I really like this film. You know, the story isn't crazy, but I think it's fun. It has some solid characters. You know, they're not super memorable, but they're still solid enough. And overall, it has a really good third act. Like, some people don't really like the third act. I really like it. I think what Mike's character goes through in this movie is some of the best things Pixar has done. And so maybe I feel like this one should move up, and I might move it up in the future. But for now, it's right here. But Mike, you know, Pixar kind of tells you that maybe, you know, your dreams won't always come true and you have to adapt, and that's part of life. But Monster University, a pretty great film in my opinion. Next, at number 16, one of the more underrated movies in my opinion. It's Finding Dory. A lot of people give Finding Dory a bit too much crap. I think this is one of the best sequels Pixar has made. I think the new characters are great. You know, you got Destiny, there's a shark whale, you got the beluga guy who's kind of blind. I thought that was funny. And you got Hank the Octopus. He's awesome. And it has some nice emotional stuff to it. You know, the seashells. I thought that worked really well. Third act is a bit much, but animation is gorgeous. It's funny. It's heartwarming. It's just not the adventure that Finding Nemo was, but if you don't compare it to Finding Nemo, you will have a blast with this movie. Next, at number 15, this is one of our newest Pixar films, and it's Onward. Onward was really good. I've seen this movie 3 times already, and we haven't even finished the year. I've just seen it 3 times. I watched it once, and then I watched it with my sisters, and then I rewatched it for my second Pixar marathon. I really like this film. Rewatching it every time, I really enjoy it, and then, some time passes and I'm like, it's not that amazing. I think the movie is held together by the brother relationship. These 2 brothers, they really work, and the characters can be a bit annoying. Like, the little brother is mean to his older brother, and the older brother is a bit more clumsy. It's just, they can be a bit annoying, but when they have their scenes together, I think it really works. The actual quest has grown on me with rewatches. I could have been a bit better, like the adventure, but I think it works pretty well. The characters, they're not the best from Pixar, and it's not overall the best from Pixar, but I still think this is a pretty great movie, and one that I think kids will really enjoy growing up with. So, yeah, Onward is a very good film. And number 14. Now, I don't love this one as much as the first time I saw it. This is actually one of the few Pixar films that I actually saw in the theater. I think this might be the only one. Wow. Maybe. Well, anyway, it's The Incredibles 2. I really like this movie. I love the first half. I think the first 2 acts even. It's in the third act that it kind of falls apart for me. Let's just start with the first 2 acts. I love the family stuff. That was my favorite part of the first movie. Just the family sticking together and Bob taking care of the kids. I think that's kind of the heart of the film and what works the most well. So I really enjoy that aspect of it, and it's probably the reason why I come back to this one so much. I like also in the first 2 acts the action sequences for Elastigirl, especially when she's chasing that train. It's just the third act and the villain are really not good. The villain, she's just kind of boring and not that good. I mean, I don't really care about a villain's motivation as soon as they're entertaining, and she's not really, she's kind of annoying, just it's so far from syndrome. But the third act, sometimes I rewatch it and I'm like, it's not that bad. It's actually pretty fun. But compared to the 3 third acts the first Incredible movie had, this one just does not level up. And yeah, but I love the first 2 acts. It's just in the third act, it's a bit weak. But great animation, and I love Jack Jack. Now, at number 13, this is really where we get into the really 9 out of 10 stuff. It's Toy Story 4 for me at 13 right now. I really like this movie. It's gone up and down as I've rewatched it. I've seen this movie 4 or 5 times by now. 3 times this year at least. When I first watched it, I really did not like this film, and the second time I watched it, which was a day later or maybe the day, I was like, I don't really like it, but I respect it. And the more I've rewatched it, the more I've really, really liked it. And I love the new characters. Duke Kaboom, all those guys, they're really fun. I love the animation. I love Woody's arc, but what they do with him, it's not amazing. And I get it upsets a lot of people, but, yeah, that's Toy Story 4. I like this movie. I think it's one of the more rewatchable Pixar films, and it's one I really, really think is gonna go down as a really good one. Next, at number 12, and this might be the biggest shocker of the video, and it's gonna get a lot of people pissed at me. Toy Story 3. I really, really like this movie, guys. Do not get me wrong. I have a blast with this film. I think, Lotso is an amazing villain. Probably my favorite Pixar villain, other than maybe Syndrome. but he's up there. He's so menacing and he works perfectly. The animation is great. The final scene is amazing. And prison escape and all that, it really works. I didn't really grow up with the Toy Story movies. I saw the first and second a couple of times, maybe. I saw the first one like twice at a friend's house, and I saw parts of the second movie. I had never seen this one prior. I saw it for the first time last year. I've seen it 3 or 4 times now, but I don't know, it just doesn't work quite as well. They turned Jessie in kind of a love interest, where she's like probably my favorite character of these movies. The gang is, everybody has their role, and I like that. And I think this is a really good Pixar movie. It's just a lot of people really judge it on the ending. And I mean, I think the rest of the film is really good too, but overall, it's not my personal favorite. I still think it's an amazing film, but it's not quite my personal favorite. Number 11, can't believe this one is this low, because this feels like an instant classic, but it's Inside Out. Inside Out was not one I loved the first time I saw it, and even the first couple of years. It's one that I've recently found a love for. I've seen it like 2 or 3 times this year, and I think it's just such a great film. I love the characters, between joy and sadness and disgust, anger. I love all of these characters, and I think they're perfectly casted by their actors. I mean, the voice cast does an amazing job. And I thought it was, the concept of it was really cool, and that's what Pete Docter does a lot. He does a lot of the cool concept and the most inventive concepts, and the guy does some absolute wonders. But Inside Out, what I love the most kind of about the film is, the joy that comes from it, no pun intended, but it's just a heartwarming film, and I love, how we see Riley. She's probably the most relatable Pixar character out there, and you just see her, and this one has some emotional moments. A lot of people say that this is kind of forcing itself to be a Pixar movie. I think this one really works, and the more I've rewatched it, the more I've really, really liked it, and it's just a relatable film, and one that hits me right there. Now at number 10, the reason I made this video, Soul. I've already watched Soul twice. Yeah, because I watched it on the 25th, the night of the 25th, and I didn't love it. I got caught off guard, I will say. I thought it would be kind of a, solid adventure. The trailer didn't look awesome. It didn't look like it was going to have the craziest screenplay, and it doesn't, And it doesn't really feel like the most Pixar movie out there, It doesn't quite have the humor and the emotional moments and the adventure that these have. But the first time I watched it, I thought that was kind of a flaw, but rewatching it, I think it's kind of a really good thing. They're switching up. This one relies heavily on the themes. It's what drives the movie, The themes about living in the moment and living with the people you love and not being obsessed with one goal that you think is going to make everything better, because life is unpredictable, and it's a very tough message. It took me a lot of thinking. I had to spend a couple of hours thinking on this movie. Joe's arc throughout this film is one of the best arcs they've ever made. It's just beautiful. The animation is absolutely gorgeous, and just stopping to think about it, the subtle hints they put in there just work so well. And Pete Docter is just one of the best. And yeah, so I think with more and more rewatches, it's gonna be like one of my favorites. Like when I first watched it, I had it at 13, but now it's moved up to number 10. But yeah, Soul is just a great movie. I will say it's not the most accessible film Pixar's made, and I don't think kids will love it as much as they would love an Onward, just because that one is more fun and adventurous. This one is more targeted towards adults, for sure. And I watched it with my family. They didn't love it. Personally, I love it. Now, at number 9. Now, this one is one I had very low on my list prior to my September marathon. And that's Toy Story 2. I love this film. I thought it was the weakest Toy Story sequel, but in my opinion, it's the best one. A lot of people think this might be even the best Toy Story movie. I do like the first one a bit more, but sometimes I question if this one is maybe better, you know? When I rewatched the Toy Story movies, I thought, maybe this is better, but I do think the first one, it has a bit more of that classic feel. But Toy Story 2 has some great themes, really good animation. It's hilarious. It's one of those early Pixar films that are really, really funny. And it's just so rewatchable. It's probably the most rewatchable Pixar film. I just love to rewatch this film. It has so many funny gags. There's a really good villain. It has some really good new characters. I mean, Jessie is one of the best characters Pixar has ever made. And yeah, I really, really like this film. It's rewatchable, and I just have a blast with it every time. At number 8, now this is a movie that I didn't love when I first saw it, but the more and more I've watched this film, the more I've loved it. Coco is one that gets so much better on rewatch. It is crazy how good this movie is. I mean, I love the Mexican culture included. The animation is absolutely gorgeous. Some of Pixar's best, honestly. Miguel is a pretty good protagonist. The music is amazing, and the emotional moments really hit. Like, especially like that scene with Mama Coco at the end. That I've seen this movie like 6 times, and I've never watched that scene without crying. Never. The scene gets me every time. I love this movie. It's gotten better and better. It used to be at like number 12, and then I just rewatched it twice this year, and it just went up to number 8. I love this film, and I'm sure it'll get better and better as I rewatch it until the end of time. Now, starting from number 7, we're really getting into the masterpieces. They're the 10s out of 10s. These ones. And my number 7 is Monsters, Inc. Now, I know a lot of people love Monsters, Inc. and I adore this film. It's in like close to my top 30 of all time. I love this movie. And I think it might be better than my number 6. It's just my number 6 means a bit more to me. But Monsters, Inc. Mike and Sully are probably my favorite Pixar duo. They are amazing. Boo is so cute. I love the concept of it all, you know, the doors and everything. It's very, very cool, and I don't know, I just really, really like this film, and I really like rewatching it. Why is it not higher? Guys, this is where really they get super hard to rank. Even from, like, number 13, they're really hard to rank. But Monsters, Inc., it's an all-timer, and I love this movie. For sure. It's an amazing movie. Can't believe it's this low on my list. That's how good the studio is, really. Now, coming in at number 6, I think this is one of the most underrated movie, just because everybody says it's overrated. You know what I mean? It's Up. Up was probably the most important Pixar movie to my childhood. It's probably the one I watched the most, and I remember the most. And I love Up. It's not just the first scene, because the first scene is amazing. I adore that scene. It's one of the best scenes in cinema history. But I love the characters. Carl, Russell, Doug, Kevin. They're all amazing characters and some of my favorite Pixar characters. I love the animation. Just the blue sky, the clouds, the house. Everything about this animation holds up so well. It's probably maybe my favorite work of Pixar for animation. And the score, yeah, it's Pixar's best score. I think the top 3 Pixar score is really Up, Incredibles, Ratatouille, but you know, you got Coco and Inside Out not far away, but Up has the greatest score of Pixar and one of the best scores of all time. I listened to Married Life so many times, and I've memorized the montage. I just love this film. It means so much to me, and yeah, it's this high. I see a lot of people who have this one really at the bottom, and that really hurts because I think this movie, even without the first act, is still great. The adventure is still a lot of fun. And it has some really emotional moments. That moment where Carl realizes that Ellie did have an adventure and she filled her book, that gets me every time. And it's just the sense of adventure that life really is. And this one just hits so hard, and I absolutely adore this film. And number 5. Now my 7, 6, 5, and 4, they're really like at each other's necks. But WALL-E, man, probably some of Pixar's best animation as well. I mean, Up and WALL-E hold up so damn well. WALL-E is one of my favorite Pixar protagonists, and his romantic relationship with Eve is one of the best romance ever put to film, in my opinion. Even as a kid, I used to remember, really liking when they were on Earth and there wasn't much dialogue, but then when they got into space, it wasn't as good. I think it's great when they're in space. The villain is, but other than that, this is an amazing film, and it's I think maybe Pixar's most accessible film, and their film that I feel like this is gonna be their film that's gonna be remembered as the Pixar film. Out of the entire filmography right now, I think WALL-E might be the most widespread and the one that will stick with people the most. So, yeah, I love WALL-E, and I love WALL-E, yeah. Number 4, it's Toy Story. Now, I used to have Toy Story at number 2. The movie isn't perfect, but I just enjoy it too much. The humor is great. The animation does not hold up, but it helps with the humor. Honestly, I love Buzz. He's awesome. Tim Allen does an amazing job in this movie. I love Woody. I love Tom Hanks as Woody. I adore the characters. I love this world. The first scene is the birthday party, and they're just like, okay, we're clear. And then Buzz Lightyear, oh no, we're not clear. That just, it works for me on so many levels. Sid is a great villain. The animation does not hold up, but this is a classic film. It's pretty simple, but I think that works for what the film is going for sure. From my number 3 to 1, these are GOAT, the greatest of all time. These are absolutely perfect. These are perfect movies for me. My top 3, perfect movies. My number 3, which cracks my top 20 of all time, is Finding Nemo. As a kid, I really liked Finding Nemo. I thought it was a bit scary. Bruce definitely scared a lot of kids. But the animation holds up so well. I rewatch it nowadays and I'm just like, wow, this looks maybe better than Finding Dory, honestly. It looks so good. I love the characters. Marlin goes through a really good arc. I love Nemo, I love Dory, I love all the side characters. And it has some really emotional stuff at some points, and it just works. It's funny as well. But the best part about this movie is this is one of the greatest adventure films of all time. The screenplay is so well crafted by Andrew Stanton. You just have all these little side quests along the way, and it just makes for one of the most fun adventures you will ever have. And this is probably the most accessible Pixar film, and I grew up with this movie. I've always really loved it, and rewatching it nowadays, it's gone better and better, and I absolutely adore this film. Now at number 2, now this one is right out on my top 10 of all time. It's The Incredibles. The Incredibles might be the best Pixar film. My number 1 is more of a deeper connection, but this is probably the most well-directed Pixar film. The characters are awesome. I love Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl, Violet, Dash, Jack, Syndrome. I love all of this. This entire family is amazing. Syndrome is an amazing villain. I love the action. It's super creative, and it's really well animated. It fits the time period because these movies are in the 50s. and it fits the time period really well. But what I love about this film, and what brings me back to it, is the tone. It can be really, adult at some points, and it's kind of an adult film, even though kids will love this movie. You got Bob maybe cheating on his wife, or these crisis on superheroes being illegal. It just works so well. The humor really works, and it has just such a subtle tone. And I think my number one movie also has that. But yeah, The Incredibles is one of the greatest movies of all time, honestly. And the more I rewatch it, the more I love it. A lot of these Pixar films, it takes multiple rewatches to really get them up there. And Soul, I'm sure, will move up my list as well. The Incredibles is an incredible movie. But my number one, you probably guessed, I think this is definitely the most underrated Pixar film. It's Ratatouille. This is my favorite movie of all time, and it took a while to get it there. It's always been in my top 10, but I've seen it twice this year, and I might rewatch it with my dad tomorrow. But the more I rewatch this film, the more I love it. The animation for the food, the fur is in Paris overall is absolutely gorgeous. The message about dreams, how you can't all do this, but wherever you come from, you can do this. That's the message, and I think that really, really works. Remy and Linguini are a great duo, and the score is amazing. I think the score is really underrated. I've listened to the score since September to now. I just listen to it when I work. It's just perfect. I really like the characters. This is a movie that I also watch in French, because if you guys don't know, I am French. I came here to Canada when I was 9 years old, so I speak French pretty well, and that's why this movie connects with me so well, because it's in France, and when I get homesick, I just watch the film, and it brings me back. The food, the way that they picture it, the sound design when they're doing the bread cracking. I think that just works so well. The Incredibles might be a more accessible film, but I think this is Pixar's absolute best, and I just adore this film, and I will never cease to love it. Honestly, it's amazing, and the fact that the villain of the movie isn't really, you got a side villain, but the real villain is kind of criticism, and critics like us, we critic movies. It really makes you think back on what you're critiquing, and God, I love this film so damn much, and yeah, I adore this film. So thank you guys for watching. This was a bit of a long video, but there was no other way to do it. I have to talk about each individual film really well. Some of them I went a bit faster than others, but some of them I really need to get my thoughts out there. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Tell me what your favorite Pixar movies are in the comments below. Did I have some that were a bit too low and some a bit too high? Tell me that in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. This is probably gonna be my last video of the year. Then in January, like maybe early January, I'll probably get my 2020 video of the best movies. Also, if you guys want to see my list and other lists I've made, go check out my letterbox. The links should be down below. And go check out my Instagram, where I look at movie news and all that stuff. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this long video. I appreciate it, and yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.